Ben Shephard, the face of warmth, wit, and effortless charm on British television, has always seemed like the man who had it all. A flourishing career, a loyal fan base, and a reputation for being one of the kindest figures on screen. But behind the smiles and beyond the glow of studio lights lies a story that's far more complicated and far more human. A story of love, loss, rediscovery, and one woman whose quiet strength changed everything. In recent months, Annie Shephard's public appearances have been turning heads for all the right reasons. Her latest charity gala appearance left everyone speechless as she stepped onto the red carpet in a breathtaking emerald gown that shimmered under the soft London lights. Her radiant smile, her composed posture, and the gentle confidence in her walk said it all. This was a woman who had rediscovered herself. For years, Annie had been known primarily as Ben Shephard's wife, the supportive partner standing gracefully by his side at awards nights, the devoted mother keeping their family grounded while Ben juggled early mornings on Good Morning Britain and intense filming days on Tipping Point. But lately, she's been stepping into her own light. She's begun embracing projects that speak to her heart: children's mental health initiatives, fitness campaigns, and environmental advocacy work that's been quietly making waves. Friends close to Annie say she's never seemed stronger, happier, or more at peace. And it's not just her glowing appearances that tell that story. It's her energy, her purpose, her quiet resilience. But as Annie blossoms, many can't help but wonder, what about Ben? The man whose face has brightened Britain's mornings for over 2 decades. Those who know him well say that lately Ben has seemed different, a little quieter, more introspective. Gone are the days when he would dominate the social scene or appear endlessly cheerful on and off screen. He's been keeping a low profile, focusing on work, yes, but also, perhaps, reflecting on life in ways few ever expected. It's been said that fame often asks a high price, and for Ben Shephard, that cost may have come in the form of quiet distance. For years, he was one of ITV's most beloved presenters. His mornings started before dawn. His evenings often ended late, and in between, there was barely time for breath. He juggled Good Morning Britain, Tipping Point, charity events, and special shows, always with that familiar smile. But behind that grin, close friends say Ben was exhausted. He had built a career millions envied, yet somewhere along the way, he began to lose the simple balance that once defined his marriage. Annie had always been his anchor. From the early days of their relationship, back in the late 1990s, she was his calm amid the chaos, his private world in a very public life. They married in 2004, a small ceremony surrounded by friends, laughter, and hope. And for years, they seemed untouchable. But even the strongest partnerships can strain under the weight of constant absence. Sources close to the couple recall that during Ben's peak work years, Annie often took on the quiet burden of holding their family together. School runs, schedules, emotional labor. She did it all, often in the background, without complaint. Still, over time, something shifted. She began to long for her own voice, her own rhythm. And Ben, well, he struggled to hear that change at first. Insiders whisper that by the late 2010s, their once easy communication became tense. Ben's long filming schedules left him drained. Annie's newfound independence, though beautiful, began to create distance neither of them fully understood. And while there was never scandal, no betrayal, no dramatic fallout, there was instead something quieter, a slow drift, the kind that creeps into marriages not with anger, but with silence, the kind where two people still love each other deeply, but find themselves living parallel lives. When Annie decided to focus more on her causes, particularly her work with a children's mental health charity in 2022, Ben supported her fully, at least publicly. He appeared proud, even inspired. But those closest to him say he also felt the weight of realization that while he'd been busy lighting up television screens, Annie had been quietly building her own identity, one that no longer revolved around him. It wasn't a rift exactly, it was a reckoning. And that's where the transformation truly began. For both of them. Annie started saying yes to opportunities she once set aside. She began traveling again, speaking at events, mentoring young women. She started running every morning, often sharing glimpses of her peaceful routines through community programs rather than social media. Her glow, her serenity became impossible to ignore. And Ben started to change too. In 2023, during an interview on This Morning, Ben briefly spoke about learning to slow down. At the time, fans thought he was simply talking about balancing his career. But those who knew him best say that moment marked a personal turning point. He had begun reevaluating everything: his work-life balance, his emotional priorities, his marriage. For the first time in years, he started taking weekends off. He stepped back from social commitments, and most importantly, he started listening. To Annie, to himself, to the quiet between them that was now asking to be healed. While Annie seemed to be thriving in her own lane, Ben was beginning to understand that success had never been about how busy he could be. It was about how present he could become. And as Annie continued to shine, attending galas, charity luncheons, and quiet gatherings of her own making, Ben's admiration for her only deepened. Friends say he's been more reflective than ever, often speaking about how proud he is of her transformation. But behind those words, some hear something else too. A touch of regret. Regret for the moments missed, the dinners cut short, the weekends away that never happened, the countless times he chose just one more show over simply staying home. He had always meant well, always driven by purpose and passion. But even the most loving intentions can sometimes build walls instead of bridges. Now, as he watches Annie command the room with quiet grace, Ben knows he's witnessing something extraordinary. Not a loss, a rebirth. Hers, and in a way, his too. Those who've seen them together recently describe a different kind of connection. Still respectful, still affectionate, but more grounded. Gone are the performative smiles of celebrity life. In their place, there's authenticity, the kind that comes only from walking through storms and emerging changed. And perhaps that's where the beauty lies. Not in the illusion of a perfect love story, but in the courage it takes to rewrite it. Annie's journey has inspired many. She's shown that identity doesn't vanish in marriage. It only waits to be rediscovered. And her renewed presence in the public eye has reminded countless women that strength can be quiet, that beauty isn't about youth or perfection, it's about peace. Ben, meanwhile, has been channeling his reflection into his work. He's taken on fewer shows, chosen projects that mean something, as one insider put it. And he's spoken candidly about gratitude, about not taking life for granted. Some fans even speculate that the couple may have gone through a quiet separation, a period of space rather than finality. But neither Ben nor Annie has ever confirmed it. They've kept things private, dignified, and deeply respectful. And perhaps that's what makes their story so powerful. It's not about scandal or heartbreak. It's about evolution. About what happens when two people who've loved deeply realize that the truest act of love is letting each other grow. Social media has lit up with admiration for both of them. Fans praise Annie's composure, her glow, her newfound independence. "She's radiant," one follower wrote. "She looks like a woman who's finally found herself." And for Ben, admiration has shifted too. Viewers see a man who's matured, who's still kind, still funny, but a little softer around the edges.
He no longer rushes. He listens more. And when he speaks of his family, there's a gentleness in his tone that wasn't always there. In many ways, it's a story of quiet redemption, of a man who learned that real success isn't measured in ratings or applause, but in the calm that follows once you stop running. And a woman who showed that you don't have to be loud to be powerful, that grace itself can be a revolution. Today, Ben and Annie are said to be on good terms, supportive, close, but living with a new kind of freedom. They attend events separately at times, but always with the same dignity that defined their early years. Ben remains one of Britain's most beloved presenters. Annie continues her charity work, inspiring countless women to rediscover their sense of self.